On the Trail of Petals, a Hanahaki alternate universe, Adrientte Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction, Part 7. I have a date, Adrien said with a smile. Marinette felt her heart stop for a second, and then it promptly died. Alia's eyes widened and she looked over to her to check her reaction. Dude, Nino cried happily. That's wonderful. Marinette forced out a grin. Inside, she was crying. Like, really, really hard. Seriously, life. They were so close, and Marinette could swear he was going to ask her out. Who is it with? Alia asked tentatively. She reached over and squeezed Marinette's hand. Adrien grinned goofily. Marinette felt a pain in her heart, but tried not to scream and plastered a smile on her face. Her name is Kagami, he said. We met when we were younger, but the other week I ran into her and we talked and I asked her to dinner. Adrien explained. Nino clapped him on the back, saying how proud he was of Adrien for snatching up a girl. Finally! Alia looked at Marinette worriedly. But I thought I was going to be the one he'd asked to dinner, she thought. Oh, God, that made her feel sick. Adrien was happy. He found someone he liked, and here she was, wishing it was her. Couldn't she be happy for him? Marinette bit her lip and pressed her feelings down far into the pit of her stomach. She needed to be happy for him, rather than bitter that he didn't like her back. Besides, most crushes weren't returned. Of course, hers on Adrien would fit in that category. What restaurant are you thinking of? What restaurant do you want to take her to? Marinette asked. Adrien told her which one, but her ears were registering the sound as if they were underwater. It was all fuzzy and far away. That's nice, she managed out, fighting a grimace. Adrien looked at her curiously. My dude, Nino interrupted and drew Adrien's attention away. Mari? Alia asked with a tentative voice. She smiled weakly. It's fine, she said with a deep breath. Alia nodded and rubbed her hand consolingly. I'm happy for him, really, she said quietly. I mean, I'll look into Kagami, but I think she's nice, you know. Hopefully she doesn't break his heart, Marinette muttered. Alia sighed and nodded. The black-haired girl looked at her lap. Her entire demeanor was drooping. Why was she so sad over this? She'd barely known Adrien for like 5 months and liked him for like 2. That's barely anything. She and Luca had liked each other for nearly half a year before they started dating. I gotta go to class. I'll bring home ice cream and movies, okay? I'll even buy you those really expensive crisps, Alia said, giving her a squeeze. Thanks, she smiled at her best friend. With the final, text me if you need it. Alia slipped out the door. Marinette looked away from Adrien and opted to stare out at the nest of birds outside. She needed the distraction, so she didn't cry and scream at him as to why he didn't like her, you know, as a crazy person would do. She could see his face in the reflection, though. It was twisted into confusion. Marinette, are you all right? He asked. She braced herself and turned around with a hopefully genuine smile. Yeah, I'm all good, she said evenly. Weird. The blonde was unconvinced and looked skeptical. Are you sure? Adrien reconfirmed. She nodded. God, why did he have to be such a caring person? If only he was apathetic. Then she wouldn't have to lie to his adorable face and know that a guy as nice as him didn't like her back. I'm just, just tired. I'm very tired, she said with a tight smile. Adrien nodded. understandingly. I get that. He checked his phone. You can probably nap right about now, right? Your next class is later tomorrow. So, even if it impedes with your sleeping schedule, it'll be fine. And he knew her schedule. A week ago, that would have made her heart leap up and go, look how much he cares for you. Maybe he likes you too. But as of now, it was making her want to collapse into a coma and never wake up and deal with reality again. Yeah, I probably will, Marinette said, getting up and going to her room. Adrien trailed after her. Do you want water or another blanket? If you want, I can make dinner and bring it over so you can eat whenever you wake up. She wanted to scream, oh my god, shut up and stop being such a good human. It would have been so much easier if he just left and, allowed her to wallow for the next couple of hours. Marinette composed herself and turned slightly to look at him. I'm fine. Thanks, though. You can stay if you want, but if not, you have the key. Indeed he did. Okay, Adrien said with a nod. I'll come back later. I hope you feel well rested, he said, turning towards the door. See you soon, he said, before gently closing the door so it wouldn't slam loudly. Marinette collapsed onto her bed with a blank look on her face. One would think she would start to sob, but she didn't. She closed her eyes and breathed in deeply. Bad idea. The blanket smelled like him. She was gonna have to wash it to get rid of the scent. Ugh, crushes were the worst. No matter. It wasn't the end of the world. Now, sometime between that Thursday and Saturday, Marinette must have caught something, because her throat was itchy and dry, and at all times she had the overwhelming urge to cough. Maybe it's strep, she told Alia when she asked. It was odd. It was definitely not sick season, and she really did get sick when it was. She opted to stay home from an outing and worried she may get someone else sick. Even then, she had no idea what she had. Her temperature hadn't gone up. Her stomach was all right. It was just her throat. Sometimes there was a rough cough, and it was aggressive, and Marinette felt like she was about to hack up a hairball the way, a cat did. Gross. I feel like there's something in my throat. But there was nothing. The phantom choking sensation still persisted. I'm just so confused. She was. What the heck was making her sick? No fever, no flu, no nothing. Just a weird always there cough. Ollie and her eventually decided that it was some weird cough that clearly wasn't transmittable because, Alia had yet to catch it. That's so odd, Adrien exclaimed when she explained to him. She nodded. It had been about 2 weeks since he told her about his date with Kagami, and they had gone a couple of nights before. Marinette had made peace with it and gotten back to normal life with Adrien as just her best friend. I know. I've been drinking I've been drinking a ton of water lately to try and get rid of it. She sighed in defeat. I'm starting to think I'm gonna have to live with this hacking for the rest of my life. Adrien patted her back and moved her head to rest on his shoulder. I doubt you will, he said reassuringly. I hope you're right, she muttered. Another attacking of coughing hit her. I'm fine. Swear, Marinette said when she finally caught her breath. Adrien looked at her worriedly and handed her a glass of water, which she downed because what else was she supposed to do? Let's pray to God there's either medicine for this or they named this coughing sickness after me, she said playfully. Adrien laughed, making Marinette's head bounce a little. Maybe you should go to the doctors, he said seriously. Marinette hummed. Probably. I'll give it another week, and if it still doesn't let up, I'll make an appointment, Adrientte promised him. Adrien nodded, content that she was, taking care of herself. His phone buzzed. He reached over and scanned over the text before sending a quick one back. He grinned a boyish grin at her that made her heart sink. She could already guess who that text was from and what he was going to tell her. Me and Kagami are making dinner plans again, he said happily. Adrientte nodded and put on a happy smile on her face. She flattened both hands on his and laced them together and shook them. That's wonderful, she said, bouncing a little on the couch. Adrien smiled like the sun, all bright and wide and impossible to not look at. She's great. I think you'd like her. She kind of reminds me of you, he said. Adrienne's smile nearly dropped. As much as she was an open person, she did not want to meet Adrien's basically girlfriend. It was all too much. There would be too much jealousy for her, too much lying and faking to people's faces, and too much sadness for her. Maybe soon I can meet her, but not right now. I don't want her thinking I'll get either of you sick, Adrientte said, smoothly making an excuse. Adrien somehow got happier. Awesome! I can't wait for you to meet her. She's the best. Adrientte smiled through the pain. I'm sure she is. It was almost a week later and Adrientte still wasn't any better. The choking feeling hadn't gone away. In fact, it felt stronger. Sometimes she swore there was something lodged in her throat, but it was at times that when she wasn't eating food or drinking something ice, so she had no idea where the feeling was coming from. She'd put her hand up to her throat and feel for something, but there was no spot where she may have had an ice cube stuck or, anything else. It was so strange, and Adrientte was just about done with the weirdness and confusion. So she had made a doctor's visit and was about to head there in about 20 minutes. Adrientte made a mental list of everything she had been feeling for the past 2 weeks and a half. Coughing, lots of coughing. Choking, lots of choking sensation, pain in chest, feeling of something stabbing her chest, feeling of something crushing her lungs. Yeah, it was all so unreal. God, the doctor was gonna look at her and say that she was on a special brand of crack or something. Suddenly, a huge coughing attack hit her and Adrientte began to sound like she was dying. Her breaths were deep but insufficient. She clutched her chest hard. God, it felt like something was stabbing her lungs. And it hurt. A lot. Her throat, it felt like it was burning, like it was on fire. This has never happened before. Was she dying? At that moment, Adrientte wished that Alia had just skipped class so she wouldn't be alone when she kicked the bucket. Okay, why am I so dramatic? She thought to herself, or at least tried to. The words seemed to also get stuck in her throat, along with the phantom stuck object or whatever. Her coughs became rougher and harsher, more painful. Good thing I'm going to the doctor's, Adrientte thought. She was kind of prepared. She held out her hands over her mouth, hoping for it to finally stop. And to her delight, it did. It finally did. The choking sensation disappeared and she felt something inside of her hands. And she felt the inside of her hands wet. Ew. Ugh, she must have coughed up a bunch of spit in her hands. No. Gross. Ew, not okay. She was gonna have to scald her hands. Gross. Ugh. Breathing deeply, Adrientte regained herself and stood up. And that was when she realized that she was holding on to something inside of her hands that she wasn't holding before. She felt herself panic as she opened the fist and, oh my god. Why was there... Oh my god. Inside her hands held a flower petal. An innocent, damp, crumpled pink flower petal. Where had that come from? Her? Why was there a flower petal in her mouth? Inside of her? What was happening? What was going on? Was she about to die? Screw it, Marinette muttered to herself, launching out the door into the train station. Whatever if she was early, she needed to know why the heck there was a flower petal in her hand after a coughing attack when, there hadn't been one before. The entire ride, Marinette was on edge, for obvious reasons. She basically flew off, almost running into something and barely having time to apologize. She burst into the doors of the office, shocking the waiting patients. They either went back to doing, whatever they were doing or shot her a scowl, brushing it off because she had bigger things to worry about. Marinette walked up to the check-in counter. "Hi," she said nervously. The lady looked up at her with a bored expression. "Name?" "Marinette Dupanchang." "Dr. K will see you in 10 minutes. What is it? Okay, wow, aggressive. Is there a doctor I can talk to, now? About a flower?" she asked. The lady raised a brow at her. "Well, some doctors have gardening hobbies, but if you really want to talk about flora, I suggest a florist," she responded with a bite in her voice. Marinette shook her head and held out her shaking hand, showing the petal. "No," Marinette said in a small voice. "What do I do when flowers start coming out of me?" At that, the lady's eyes went impossibly wide. She looked like she was about to jump out of her seat and scream. "I have a doctor for you right now," she said in a rush, pressing a button on the phone aggressively. "I have one for you, and it's not gonna look good soon," she said hurriedly. Marinette's brain freaked out. What wasn't gonna look good soon? What was happening to her? Was she gonna become a huge flower or something? What was going on? Was she gonna... Oh my god. The door nearly slammed open, but the doctor looked calm and composed. "Marinette, I need you to come with me," the red-haired woman said, quickly turning away and walking fast. Marinette followed her, but not before noting that the lady at the counter had whispered, "I'm so sorry," to her. What was happening? Were they gonna tell her that she was going to become a giant, garden? Marinette had to admit, she was about ready to cry. She was very scared. The doctor led her down a hallway, took a turn, and another, until they reached a clean white hallway that didn't seem like a regular doctor's office hallway. It also looked like it was barely used. Was she about to die and this was their morgue? Or was this the florist community? What was going on? "Marinette, I'm Dr. Barak. You may call me Tiki, though. I work very closely with my patients as long as I can," the doctor, Tiki, said in a serious tone. What? Okay, that was terrifying. As long as she could? Was Marinette a part of a subspecies that was dissected or something? Like a subspecies of humans that, grew flowers inside of them? Because as of right now, that was honestly on the table. It was all super, super scary. Nice to meet you," Marinette said nervously. Tiki entered her room and motioned for Marinette to get up on the exam table. Marinette opened her mouth to explain her situation, but Tiki put a hand up and she quickly shut up because, that's what you do when a doctor puts their hand up and looks serious. You listen to doctors. Always. "I already know what I need to know," she said in a grave voice. "You have Hanahaki's disease, and if we don't act soon, it may be fatal to you." Oh my god. This was not going to be good, was it?